Let's make sure that we let everyone else know on our other social media that we are live as well. But in the meantime, while we do that, I am Liz. I am your host on the Pinfall podcast. And I am joined again, as always, by my esteemed co-host, Mr. Marcus Mifsud.
Howdy ho, Ranger Joe.
So tonight we are going to be talking about Monday Night Raw, the 3-hour extravaganza that never fails to disappoint. And frankly, I have not been disappointed tonight.
Well, in most ways.
Well, I'll find out why you're disappointed in a little bit, I guess. As I promised, I have my Talk Less, Play More shirt. And frankly, has there ever been a better night for it? Probably not, because Backlash will be the best night for it.
Yeah.
Which I will also be wearing this shirt for that as well. My Seth Rollins shirt will not be involved in that evening. So it was a bit of a ride tonight. There were some points where I was like, I really can't believe that this has only been an hour and a half. There were some points where I couldn't believe that we already spent half an hour on a fight.
Yeah.
I guess let's just dive into it. Starting with the fight that was supposed to be Asuka versus Charlotte Flair, but it wasn't. We had Asuka and Charlotte, and then all of a sudden we had Sasha and Bayley, and then we had the Iconics.
Which set way for, at Backlash, the triple threat tag team women's championship fight.
Yeah, I mean, because Nikki Cross posted about it prior to Raw starting tonight, when the Iconics came out, I was like, oh, okay, I kind of know where this is going.
Mm-hmm.
But at first I was expecting an Asuka Charlotte Flair match, and then all of a sudden Bayley and Sasha came out, and I was like, okay, I guess we're gonna sit through this. And then it evolved, I would say. It evolved.
Yeah, it was weird to see Asuka and Charlotte as like a tag team, but it's kind of interesting because like they did not like being their tag team partners. And then
it was very Timothy Thatcher and Matt Riddle, I think.
And then Asuka jumping in at like the last second to steal Charlotte's thunder and make was it Billie Kay tap out? That was great.
Yes. I have so many notes for this. Yeah, because obviously Charlotte, Bayley, and Sasha have a bit of a history with each other.
Mm-hmm.
At first I kind of thought like, okay, it's probably going to be between the two of them. And then the Iconics came out and I was like, okay. So I guess we're really going into it tonight. And frankly, the Iconics kind of dominated the ring for the better part of this brawl, I guess you could call it. They were in there and they were kicking ass, taking names for an extended period of time, for sure.
But I was mostly, out of everyone in that fight, I was probably most impressed with Sasha Banks. I thought she was like the most impressive fighter out of all of them, it seemed like. At least in my opinion.
I definitely think that Sasha has consistently been showing the fact that she probably deserves a lot more than she is currently getting. And I think that's the point, is that when they announced that there's going to be a Backlash fight for the tag team championships that Alexa and Nikki just lost, with Alexa, Nikki, Sasha, Bayley, and the Iconics, if next Sunday is not the moment that Sasha and Bailey break up, because Sasha realizes she is superior in terms of like anything that she can do, I'm gonna be confused. I'm gonna be lost.
Yeah, or even like the next Friday, just so they have Backlash to set it up so that they can on Friday.
I'm kind of hoping for like the way that Timothy Thatcher and Matt Riddle ended up like all of a sudden turning on each other during a tag team match. Kind of hoping for that. I think that'd be really cool.
Or like one of our next fights, which we'll talk about very soon, where a certain someone turned on another certain someone. Do you know what I'm talking about? Okay,
Yes,
there you
I
go.
do now.
There you go.
I had to look at my notes for a second there. But yeah, I think this wasn't the fight I wanted, and this wasn't the fight I expected to receive. First thing, I think I'm happy that the Iconics are back.
Yeah.
I think that it's good for them. I feel like I have not seen a match with Asuka recently, because this is probably one of the second times I think we're mentioning Asuka, and this was supposed to be her match.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the second times we're mentioning her, and I don't think we have seen a match with her recently that has not been interfered with by either Charlotte or Nia Jax, which
we will also get to later.
Tonight. I just feel bad because I feel like it seems that she isn't being allowed the spotlight she needs after getting the title from Becky Lynch.
I think that's kind of the point, though. She gets the title, and then everyone thinks that she's stealing their spotlight, especially Charlotte.
Well, after NXT last night, I think Charlotte has even more of a reason to feel like she's being undermined, if you will.
Yeah.
But it was a really good fight. I think the Iconics, again, suffered from something that I've noticed them suffering from before in other SmackDown matches where they really don't sell their hits at all. I think there was a point where Peyton was on top of someone, I think it was Bailey, and you could just see her arm going past and like her elbow landing after her head, and I was like, all right, well, I know you guys can definitely do some stuff that like makes me gasp, so this is ridiculous. But
they're saving all of their stuff for Backlash.
And like Charlotte and Billy had like a slap fight at one point where they were just slapping each other, and I was like,
Charlotte slapped a lot of people in this fight.
Charlotte slapped many people tonight. There was a lot of slapping tonight, actually.
Yeah. It's one thing I don't like about wrestling, and one thing that I really didn't like about the Drew McIntyre Seth Rollins fight at Money in the Bank, when people just stand there and let themselves get slapped in the chest.
All right, well, backhand from Drew McIntyre is a little different from Charlotte slapping someone in the tits, but okay. One of my favorite things, actually, from this match, and one of my favorite things from Raw tonight in general, was Charlotte setting up. I think she was setting up for the moonsault. She was on the top buckle, about to fly down onto, I think it was Billy. And Asuka tapped herself in by smacking Charlotte on the butt or the leg, I don't know. And Charlotte was just sitting there like, oh, okay. And then Asuka won, which I thought was really awesome because it was like, they were a forced team. They were arguing for most of it. And Asuka was like, no, I'm going to prove myself right here. This was supposed to be my match. That's what I'm going to make it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I really appreciated that.
It also felt like she was trying to, in the back of her mind at least, prove that she's worthy of the Raw Women's Championship.
Mm-hmm. I think also the fact that Charlotte ended up tackling Asuka after the bell rang, sort of grasping at straws now ever since she lost her NXT match.
Yeah.
So ultimately, a very interesting first fight of the night. especially since we ended up getting the payoff later on.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why we had to do this as opposed to just having an announcement.
Right.
Like a lot of other people do, but it was an interesting start, and it definitely built up the Charlotte Flair Asuka kind of like, I guess it's becoming a feud now. But I don't want to spend too much time on this because we do have a lot of stuff to go over. And the next segment, I guess, of Raw was Chef's Kiss. Beautiful. With Mr. Seth Rollins taking over the announcer booth and talking to Mr. Mysterio.
Just shooing poor little Byron away so he can have a nice little chat with Rey.
Byron, who could 100% like choke Seth out with those muscles that he somehow manages to hide under his suit.
Mm-hmm.
And Seth's just like, no, go away. We're not doing this today. a pure Gemini move. But it was a little. I enjoyed every second of it, but it was a little disjointed at first because, like, when Seth was like, "Oh, Rey, I invite you to come to next Monday Night Raw and fight me," and Rey was like, "Well, I'm not medically cleared, so
yeah,
not gonna be able to do that per se, but I will fight you at some point."
Well, next week we are getting. I think Rey will be back, and probably Dominic too.
I want to see Dominic punch Seth's lights out. I want to see that so badly. Because after he took on Brock Lesnar, I trust that man. I trust him.
We're going to get like a 4-on-3. Humberto, Alistair, Rey, and Dominic versus Seth, Murphy, and Austin Theory.
And we'll get back to this, but I think that's the perfect thing that they need is Alistair and Humberto need a third person to take on Seth, Austin, and Buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Because every match, even regardless of who wins, every match ends in Seth's crew beating up Humberto and Alistair.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Right.
So, we're enjoying it. We're having a good time. We're watching the interview. I got excited when Seth invited Rey to Raw next week. And then all of a sudden, my brain did not register until I saw the wrestling spandex. But Aleister Black comes out of absolutely nowhere and tackles Seth through the announcer's booth, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I have never felt more vindicated.
Yeah, that was like... That's the kind of stuff I want from Raw. Just like... completely I love when people just charge at other people like a train. Alistair does it all the time now, and it's beautiful.
He doesn't even wait for his like opening sequence. He doesn't come up from the ground anymore. He's just like, I am so tired of Seth Rollins.
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming out there.
Yeah.
That was really exciting, and I think so when NXT happens in 2 days, we're going to try to watch it on WWE Network because we pay for it. We may as well. And there's a lot of stuff that happens like during the commercial break or whatever they say. All of a sudden, we went from Alistair dive bombing Seth to we cut to a commercial, and now it's Alistair and Humberto versus Buddy and Austin.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I don't think we got to see exactly like the stuff we'd like to see from Alistair per se. We didn't get to see a lot of the martial arts, a lot of like the backflip onto someone and then ending in like a cross-legged position or whatever. But I realized watching Alistair and Buddy is really exciting. They are both very like technical wrestlers at the end of the day. A lot of it's based on force, it felt like. A lot of like Buddy's stuff was kind of opportunistic, but not scummy. And kind of forcing Alistair in positions he didn't want to be in. It felt very cerebral, I guess.
Yeah, I think nobody is really like Alistair in that he is both a brutal and a flashy wrestler. You know, you have the flashy luchadors like Rey Mysterio, Lucha House Party. You have the brutal wrestlers like Bobby Lashley or Keith Lee. But Alistair combines both of those into one, and it makes all of his fights super exciting.
We also got to see something that I think both of us were like, oh my God. When Buddy was on, I think he was on the top rope at this point, on the buckle, and Alistair out of nowhere kicked him in the face. That was...
Mm-hmm.
Buddy just fell flat on the ground after that.
Yeah, he like hopped up onto the bottom rope and just basically like stuck his leg straight up in the air and kicked him right in the face. His whole acrobatics and just athletic ability is super impressive.
And because of that, and because of Humberto, after that happened, Humberto jumped into the... I think Humberto jumped into the ring, and then Alistair helps him launch himself onto Austin, giving Alistair the opening to pin Buddy and win, which was great. I was very happy because Alistair has not. At the moment, it felt like Alistair had a win that he was going to be able to go home with. And then Seth came out in Rey Mysterio's mask.
Yeah.
I love the writing that they're doing for Seth. I love that it seems like he is absolutely just like not on this like mental plane anymore. But he came out in Rey's mask, and I felt slighted. I felt personally offended. And that helped Seth's crew do the same thing that they do every Monday Night Raw, where they take Alistair after he's beaten them and they attempt to murder him.
Yeah.
But Seth's starting to look like he's falling apart a little bit. He came out and his little man bun was already like looking like my hair does right now. And the fact that Seth needs like a 3-on-1 to really punish Alistair is kind of
And even when they were even on a 3-on-1 last week, they still lost. They lost to Alistair and Humberto. Alistair pinned Seth in the middle of the ring, and then they had their punishment. So every time they're losing. So, I don't know. I think we'll really see what happens next week with Rey, but I think they're going to beat... Here's a little prediction. I think they're going to beat Alistair and Humberto, and then Rey and Dominic come in and pick up the slack, and then it becomes a 4-on-3.
That's fair. I think I'm kind of disappointed that they didn't turn this into a backlash fight, I guess.
I don't know.
Because I feel like what better time to bring Rey back from retirement than to have Seth be like... I feel like maybe if they held off on like the whole like retirement ceremony for Backlash, it would have been really cool to have Rey like be like, I didn't die. I'm still here. I've got my son. We're going to beat you to a pulp, and that's going to be that.
Yeah, but then it just looks like, oh, you faked this retirement so you could make this big announcement at Backlash. It's just all PR.
Yes, that's fair. Maybe I shouldn't be in charge of writing for them.
Plus, maybe Rey isn't going to be medically cleared on Sunday.
Yeah, actually, that's true. I did feel bad because they kind of... when they cut away finally, Alistair was like zonked on the mat. Just like
literally drooling on the mat.
Oh, I just want him to be okay. I want him to finally get what he deserves, like a full, entire win. Not a win with Seth stomping his face into a mat. I don't want to see that.
Mm-hmm.
I just want him to actually win. I want him and Umberto to win. And that's that. I want Seth to go back to being the guy he was after, I think it was Money in the Bank.
Money in the Bank, yeah.
Where he was like super depressed.
When he lost to Drew.
I don't feel bad for him. He deserved it. But so after that, which I still like, I can't get my mind off of, seeing Alistair fly through the air over the announcer's table was what I wanted so badly. Because the whole time Seth was talking, I was like, I wonder if Alistair's ever going to come out. I guess we're not going to see him tonight, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden he just flew through the air, and I was like, oh, okay. So after that, we had Randy Orton's promo prior to the Peep Show with Christian and Edge.
Yeah.
And
I mean, there's not much to talk about here.
It's the same old, same old. I did really like the way that they wrote Christian, because we were sitting there for a while like, they're best friends, and Christian's kind of like being really mean to him. And then Edge got all fired up. He's like, that's exactly what we want to see. And I was like, oh, you faked us out a little bit, huh? This further solidifies the fact that I don't really see Randy winning at Backlash at all. Also, Kurt Angle said he would, so I trust him.
Yeah, I think Edge made a tweet that basically just encapsulates the whole interview, where he basically tweeted, like, naming it the greatest show sets us up for failure. Nothing is going to live up to the name The Greatest Show. And that's basically what he said on the show, except when he was on the Peep Show, it was basically more like, this fight's not going to be as great as you think it is when you call it the greatest fight. Being more specific about the fight, whereas the tweet was talking about the whole show.
I think that they're doing a good job with promoting it, at least, because we haven't really seen too much from Randy and Edge, per se. We've seen a lot from other people who are like, I think this guy's gonna win, and I think this guy's gonna win, and like, here's like something that happened at WrestleMania. Like, watch this. Go satiate yourself. I did really like that when Randy was like, redemption of the Edge is over, and Edge was like, took like that deep pause, and he was like, no, it's not. And I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna see the Rated R Superstar win, because you can't. First of all, if it's 10 minutes shorter than it was at WrestleMania, it's gonna be a great fight as it is. That's enough that I can ask for from them. But on top of that, when Randy Orton knocked out the Edge's wife, I'm sorry, there's no way unless they plan to like maybe if this were like November or December, we were kind of close-ish to the next WrestleMania, be like, okay, I get it. Like, you're really just kind of setting this up to like be a slow burn, and then WrestleMania is going to come and it's going to be a nightmare. But because the Edge knocked out his wife so shortly after WrestleMania, I believe, I could be talking at my ass, but there's not enough people to call me out on it. So after WrestleMania, when he knocked Edge's wife out, they're not going to make him not win. There's no way.
Unless they have Orton win so they can have the greatest fight of all time 2 at SummerSlam. When is SummerSlam? Is that August?
July.
July? That's not that far. That's close enough to where you can have a sequel to this fight.
Let me pull you out of this right now. Okay, it's in August. It's supposed to be August 23rd. Oh, my lucky day. You know what? Let them fight that day. Fine, I'll be there. 8:23? That's me. And it rhymes. Anyways, I did really like that they did the whole switcheroo on you, where you're like, Christian's supposed to be his best friend, and so he's gonna hype him up. And then Christian was like, you're not gonna amount to anything. This isn't gonna work out for you. You're crazy if you think you're gonna win. And then Edge was like, I'm gonna win. And Christian was like, yes, exactly. And I was like, oh, we love a friend that knows how to get into his other friend's mind.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for that match. Again, I'm really hoping that it's at least 10 minutes shorter than the WrestleMania match was, because I remember maybe 5 seconds of that match because I was so tired.
It was a fight that just droned on and on and on.
It was a haul. I just want them to stay in the ring. That's all I want.
I
I want
felt
them to stay in the ring.
I felt like them, where they could barely slap each other.
They were like standing over each other like, why do we have to keep doing this?
Meanwhile,
like, why do you?
Meanwhile, Vince McMahon is behind the camera, like, "Come on, we have 20 more minutes to fill. This is the last fight."
I see this. I feel so bad for them sometimes when I think of Vince McMahon at the helm.
Yeah.
But I think they might have learned. Maybe it was because we watched it, like we saw that match around 2 a.m. because we watched it so late that we weren't focused on it. Maybe it was really exciting. We just weren't there for it because I had 14 drinks and it was almost sunrise time. So who knows? But I'm really hoping that at least this time it just stays in the ring and I see them fighting each other with their hands as opposed to dragging one another up trailers to win.
I don't know. We might have a repeat of the Adam Cole Velveteen Dream fight, which I'm hoping for. But
Edge didn't get back surgery just to like go another 40 hours on this.
So I think that covers basically that whole peep show.
We kind of hit a bit of a lull during, I think it was about the next half hour of Raw tonight, where we first had MVP talking to Charlie for an interview, and my favorite boy, or man, I guess. He's got 5 kids. I should call him a man. My favorite man, R-Truth.
Out of
nowhere.
After beating Robin Gronkowski. Robin Gronk, as he's called.
Robin Gronk.
The 2187 7-Eleven championship.
I-95 South.
Oh god, R-Truth. Oh man.
He's a national treasure, and I love him because he's so strange.
Yeah.
And his whole shtick for the most part, is just being an absolute kook. And I feel like, because we ended up watching Ms. and Mrs. for a little bit, we binged everything that's available on Hulu. So I think watching him as a human being talking to the Miz about like baby-proofing a house was so interesting in comparison to R-Truth portraying himself as Pretty Ricky in the ring. Mm-hmm. I think he was with Ricochet versus MVP, and I was like, okay, all right, I guess we're doing this now. But I really enjoy him. I'm really glad that somehow he finally got his title back.
He was hidden as a gardener and then attacked Gronk in his backyard when the other dude was like, no, it's fine, it's just a gardener. And then afterwards he took off his clothes and was a ref. Like, that's the WWE I want. That's what I want to see. For anyone who's listening who hasn't seen us watch WWE in person,
which is everyone, because we only started watching it once we were in quarantine. My favorite joke is that there is a ref in every room in case a fight breaks out. And the moment Gronkowski came out, like, I'm gonna do a TikTok dance, and his friend was like, yeah, I'm gonna film you, it's gonna be great, you're gonna have fun. And all of a sudden he takes his jacket off and he's a ref, and I was like, oh my god, I was right.
Even during the Elias Jeff Hardy accident, before there were even paramedics, there were refs.
3 refs.
Yeah. And there wasn't even a fight. At least with R-Truth, there was a fight, albeit a short one, but...
But yeah, so R-Truth was... I think he was going to hide himself in one of the traveling cases, and that's what it looked like.
I think he was just pretending to be a gardener.
Well, because he comes into MVP's interview.
Right. Yeah. You're talking about today.
He was like digging through a traveling case, and like it looked like he was about to just hide himself in there until Bobby Lashley, of course, because he and R-Truth or MVP are BFFs now. Lashley full Nelsoned him, which kind of blows because now R-Truth can't hide himself from Rob Gronkowski, but. And we'll get plenty more Bobby Lashley full Nelsoning as time goes on, I guess. Anyways, speaking of actually MVP and Lashley, we then got to be treated to the Street Profits versus Viking Raiders decathlon. Yeah. Because that's never going to end, I guess. I don't think they're ever actually going to fight each other.
Well, I mean, they're best buds. I don't think they're gonna fight each other. I don't want them to. I don't think they want to. Like they'd rather play games together than fight,
I think they've grown on each other.
I think even more than that. I think they started out as like best. Actually, during the basketball game, they didn't seem like best buds. But yeah, they've grown on each other, especially during the fight later on.
True. We got Montez winning the 1600 for the Street Profits. We had Viking Raiders winning archery, Street Profits winning Flip Cup, and it slowly kind of devolved from actual track and field events to madness, I guess, with sword fighting. There were hurdles, there was pole vaulting, but then there was stick fighting and a dance-off and a turkey leg eating contest.
Flip Cup.
Yeah. I kind of want to see them fight, but at this point I kind of just want to see them continue this ridiculous weird rivalry that they've taken on, I guess.
I want to keep seeing them like back Drew McIntyre. Be like their best buds.
I want to see anyone back Drew McIntyre. Specifically me.
Anyway, yeah, there's not much to talk about in the decathlon. I mean, it ended up being a tie.
Same as always, like, there's still the whole anything you can do, I can do better thing is like that's the whole tagline, and they tied at the end of this, so they're still tied as we speak as far as what they can and cannot do. But that being said, we had 30 minutes of nothing moving in any real direction. But then we got to see Andrade versus Kevin Owens versus Angel Garza. And that was a fight that I've probably been waiting to see longer than I've been waiting to see Bayley and Sasha Banks fight each other.
Mostly because we've wanted the Zelina Vega crew to kind of split up for a while.
I just want to stop seeing Zelina Vega's shocked face.
Yeah.
She can do two things. She can do cocky, like, or she can just do, like...
Or she can do pissed off at a reporter.
Yeah, and it's... I've seen her talk before. I've watched Sheamus's workout videos. I watched a video with her and Alistair and Sheamus. And she's a person. She's a normal person. She can talk. I know she can. She is written so poorly. And it drives me insane. So basically, the whole point of this fight was that whoever won this fight was going to fight Apollo Crews at Backlash for his title. Um, Apollo initially challenged Kevin. I don't know what happened there because I know it came off track.
Yeah, it became a tag team against Andrade and Angel Garza.
Yeah. Okay. So I think Apollo was like, you know what, fine. If you guys all want to fight for it, go for it. So he had Andrade, Angel, and Kevin all fighting each other. I was personally rooting for Kevin because I love Kevin Owens. He came out of absolutely nowhere like a little rocket. Smacking, I think he smacked the shit out of Angel.
It was both of them because they both came in at the same time, and he was getting revenge on Angel for taking out his knees on his entrance.
Because Kevin Owens' knees are broken right now. But I think, after Austin Theory left Zelina's crew, and rightfully so, I think she was kind of better off without him because it's Austin Theory. And he acts like one of the Three Stooges when he gets hit.
But he's been in my opinion, he's been a whole lot better since joining the Rollins crew. I mean, he had some great hits during the fight today. I think he had like a really great drop kick into...
He did.
Who was that? Alistair, I think it was.
I think so. I think he still did one of his like weird moves where someone kicked him. He was on the outside of the ring. And I think Alberto kicked him from inside the ring in like the face, more or less. And he did the same stupid thing where he's just like, and like dies. But he did definitely have a lot of better moves. I think he's kind of thriving under Seth because he is being given the chance to have a role, I guess, as opposed to like he was kind of like Andrade's and Angel's lackey, more or less.
I mean, he's still Seth Rollins' lackey.
But he wasn't given like the opportunity to like Andrade is like the star of the crew. Angel Garza's kind of like the second up. Austin was sort of just there to like
be a
tire
face.
people out. Yeah, and take like blows when he needed to. Whereas I think on Seth Rollins' crew, it's like equally dispersed between him and Buddy because Seth Rollins obviously does not do any of the fighting on his own.
Yeah.
But for a while, I mean, there was a very long period of time where it felt like Angel and Andrade didn't realize that there was only going to be one winner. Because they were both ganging up on Kevin and tiring him out.
And then Andrade was about to pin Kevin, and then Angel was like, wait, no. I want to win.
He pulled him off, and then they eventually ended up hitting... Because this was another slap fight that we got to see, where they were just one after the other, and it eventually turned into them punching each other, but for a while it was just like slap against the chest, and I was like, boys, we can do better than this. But then one of them, I don't exactly know who, and I don't think they exactly know who, hit Zelina Vega.
It was, they were both kind of knocked into Zelina. Yeah, they were both fighting outside of the ring and kind of just like stumble into her.
Yeah. And she acted like her nose was broken because that's Zelina Vega. I was happy because Kevin Owens really did seem to get a couple good hits in, and I think he needed that considering he came back from a knee injury to help Apollo win the title. And then he seemed to, while fighting Apollo, get injured more.
Yeah.
And you never know how serious the injuries actually are. But when someone's been out for a while with an injury, you're kind of like, oh, maybe they're actually broken. And he sort of limped down to Apollo at first match last Monday Night Raw. So I was happy that he finally seemed to get like a good few hits in and like control of what was going on around him, even though he didn't eventually win.
Mm-hmm.
But Angel Garza and Andrade really proved to be the best matched fighter for one another, I think. Andrade got kicked to absolute oblivion from Angel Garza. And I personally think that I think Andrade is really like the head of that crew now. I think he's more talented than Angel Garza has led on to be at this point.
Yeah, and I think he has more legacy than Angel. Because I think that was the whole thing from, at least from when we were watching, was Andrade was always the one who has the more tenure, more history in wrestling. But I think Zelina's gonna either kick out Angel from her crew or Angel's gonna leave, because there's no way she's not gonna be with the winner, Andrade. She's gonna stick with him.
I think whatever happens at Backlash, it's gonna eventually become a fight between Angel and Andrade, because I don't think whether he wins or not, I think Zelina's gonna still hang on, because I think she's I don't remember the guy's name, but the guy from NXT, Matt Stone or something, who's now representing Aliyah or Aliyah, I don't know. I think she kind of has that same mentality where it's like, I've got to cling on to someone, because she's not wrestling anymore. This is the only thing she has left as far as like wrestling is concerned, as far as we can tell, because she has not made any attempts to like come back as like a wrestler. So I think she's gonna definitely cling on to Andrade, and I think it might end up being a fight between him and Angel Garza after Backlash.
Right.
But as we mentioned, Andrade, Angel Garza actually got Kevin Owens in a submission pin, and then Andrade broke it up, pinning Garza to win the match, and now he's going on to Backlash to fight Mr. Cruz, which is funny because Mr. Cruz got his title from defeating Andrade. So I do not believe that will be a cheap fight at all. I think that'll be a very interesting fight to the death, honestly.
Oh, for
Seems
sure.
like.
I hope we get a little Kevin Owens in the crowd cheering him on.
I hope he like kind of pulls like a Daniel Bryan for Drew Gulak kind of thing, like cheering him on. So after this, we had Charlotte got interviewed by Charlie, and we had to see Asuka slap her, like full blown, like Dennis Reynolds, I will slap you in the teeth. Slap. Which, you know what, I'm kind of happy for her, because she's trying to make a name, I think, and she's proving that she's deserved the title from Becky. Andrade and Angel Garza arguing. Zelina Vega did tell them to like just walk away because they were trying to like blame each other and apologize to her at the same time, and she's like, "Just go over there. We'll talk later." Which I think proves that she still has power over the two of them as a whole, whether they're arguing or not. Then we got a little promo from Eric and Ivar, the Viking Raiders. My favorite, Mr. Drew McIntyre.
And then after that, we had...
No. I'm in charge of this. I mean, there really wasn't much to speak of. Drew just weirdly offered his alliance to the two of them, which he kind of offered just the Street Profits too, after Bobby Lashley tried to kill Montez, which was kind of messed up. And I saw this happening, I think, from the get-go, because Bobby Lashley, during his fight with the Street Profits, ended up full Nelsoning Montez, even after the referee was like, "Hey, stop! Bell rang. You can go home now." And Drew broke that up. So I figured, well, if the same crew is fighting the Viking Raiders, why would Drew not get involved in some way?
Yeah.
So that was exciting for me, personally. I love Drew McIntyre forming a bond with anyone on this nightmare of a show.
In case those watching didn't know, Liz is a huge Bobby Lashley fan.
Oh, God, don't say such things.
But only second to MVP.
Sarah's father's never going to speak to me. I am a Drew McIntyre fan through and through. I would not have spent $30 on a shirt for nothing.
Let the record show that Liz spent $30 on a t-shirt.
It was more than $30. It was $27.99 before shipping and taxes.
Oh, no.
But I love him so much. I just love him. He does so many nice things. But speaking of Mr. McIntyre, so MVP held his VIP lounge talk show. And as he was announcing what we all assumed would be Bobby Lashley, out came Drew McIntyre. Pretending, no less, that the nice things that MVP was saying about Bobby Lashley were about him. Which, frankly, full Gemini move right there. That's me, right there, in a nutshell. I loved it. I love this feud that they're stirring up, because I don't know how MVP factors into any of it, because he is not part of the fight at Backlash, or he should not be part of the fight at Backlash.
I think it's safe to consider him, like, basically Bobby Lashley's manager, I guess. Or,
I mean,
like,
Lana isn't anymore, so.
Yeah.
When Drew said to MVP, because he's also just as confused about MVP's relationship to Bobby Lashley as we are, he asked him, "Are you like his Yoda?" Which I thought was quite funny, and again, I'm glad that he also doesn't get why MVP has kind of like saddled his horses to Bobby's wagon there. And I'm sure we're not supposed to understand for a while. Or maybe we'll never understand and Lana will just interfere in some way and, fine. That's okay. I'm not going to cry about it. Also, when Drew ended up... So, MVP is talking to Drew. Out of nowhere, Bobby Lashley comes up. Which, again, totally expected. You can see that coming from a mile away. And out of the corner of my little eye and out of the corner of my little TV screen, I see MVP put his mic down, and I was like, something's about to happen. Something's about to go down here. And before he can even get a punch in, Drew McIntyre turns and hits MVP with a sweet, sweet Glasgow kiss. And if I told you I didn't yell, I'd be a lying fool.
It's a really good thing we're not commentators, because it would be really hard for you to be unbiased.
There's no impartiality here. I don't like MVP. And his 14 shades of Punisher suits.
Even though they make sense, it's not like the cops wearing Punisher. This makes sense.
It definitely does. I just don't know why he has so many different colors of it. I thought that we had seen, because I know that, a lot of, wrestlers kind of have the same uniform, but maybe different colors and stuff like that. So when MVP came out in his purple Punisher uniform, I was like, oh, okay, so he's got the white one, he's got the purple one, whatever. And then he comes out in a red one. And now I'm just wondering how many more iterations we can have of this.
What if he's just doing the gay pride flag? Next is, like, yellow.
Oh. Then I'll have to like him. I hope he doesn't. I hope he just goes back to, like, the white one.
I hope
or just does a red one again.
I hope he does do that. Or, like, next is, like, he wore the Captain Marvel uniform. Or, like,
No, next one's, like, the full rainbow.
Yeah.
And we also just have to sit there like, oh, okay. He's fighting for my rights, therefore I must like him, I guess. But of course, after VIP Lounge, we got what my personal little heart was waiting for. Because I knew exactly what was going to happen. Sort of. Raiders versus Lashley and MVP.
Mm-hmm. Which was surprisingly a really good fight.
Yeah, it was very exciting. I mean, I don't know if it was good because we haven't seen the Viking Raiders fight much at all. I don't think. I think we got introduced to them when they started their sort of war, quote unquote, with Street Profits.
Even though they're basically in the same weight class as Bobby Lashley, I was expecting him to just wipe the floor with them, but it was very close. It was very close, actually.
We got to see them come out, and in addition to the Raiders being out there, on their side were the Street Profits and Drew McIntyre, which was really funny. I think that really helped the vibe of the match.
Mm-hmm.
There were a couple of moves where I think, because Eric was in it for half of it, Ivar was in it for half of it. There wasn't a lot of like interchange between the two of them. There wasn't a lot of like tagging in and out. But at one part, Ivar cartwheeled.
Yeah, kind of pulled an
I
Otis.
just sat there like, my brain was lost on that one. I didn't realize that was like a possibility.
I after seeing them doing their whole like Olympic Games thing, I could see all of them just doing cartwheels across the ring. Honestly.
We also did get halfway through, and this is one of the things that WWE that annoys me, which is we'll be watching a match, and then all of a sudden we'll be interrupted by an interview by someone who's also watching the match from backstage.
Yeah.
But we got that with Lana. And normally I hate it, but I think Lana may have teased that she might be coming back. Because she mentioned that she realized she had been putting too much emphasis on her relationship with Bobby and not enough on her career, which been Bobby, as far as like we've seen recently. So I'm wondering if she's trying to make a comeback now as a wrestler. It's a possibility.
It is. It could mean a lot of things. Wrestler is just one avenue. Maybe manager. Maybe I don't know. It could mean anything. I think it's going to involve MVP somehow, because they've been doing some sketchy things on the sideline. Maybe Bobby Lashley will fight MVP.
Ooh. I don't want to say anything that'll jinx it, but maybe that'll happen after Backlash. Who's to say?
Or during Backlash.
I mean, I think MVP... Excuse me, oh my god. MVP definitely has his eyes on Lana, and you can tell because she like slapped him in the face a week ago now, and he was like,
he said, "Do it again."
he was like, "Please, Lana, I beg you." Which sort of a feeling that she might be trying to tease a return. I think her first targets, since she's been out of the ring for so long, would be someone that would hurt MVP. Because the only person that would hurt Bobby would be her.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of hoping that maybe that comes into play at Backlash. Her and Bobby's like kind of messed up relationship. I'm not going to say anything because, again, I really don't want to jinx it because I don't want to take a shot. I really don't, and I don't want to cry, so...
Yeah, for those who don't know, Liz and I have an agreement. If Drew McIntyre loses the title at Backlash, she has to take a drink or take a shot on camera during the podcast that night. And if he keeps his title, I have to take a shot. And
we'll go over the rules in a little bit, though.
You found the liquor we're doing, right?
Yes. We'll go over it at the end of this, because I don't want to get too distracted, because there's still a little bit more to talk about this match, but I'm really crossing my fingers and praying to my lucky stars tonight, because I don't want to have to do a shot. Anyone who knows me knows that when I do a shot, it's very, very sad. Very sad. But let's keep going through this match here. So we got some really good moves from Ivar. We got some really cool moves from Eric. We saw a lot more physicality from them than I think either of us expected to see.
Mm.
But eventually, I believe what happened here was, at one point, Bobby came out of the ring and accidentally bumped into Mr. McIntyre.
Yeah.
And that was, for me personally, thrilling.
He just stood up, gave him some mean eyes, a little face off, and then Bobby just charged at, was it Ivar?
Yeah.
I thought he was charging at Drew, but then we just see Ivar on the edge of the frame.
Bobby won the same way that he's won a couple of his last matches, or at least the way he won the Street Profits match, where I think he full Nelson'd Eric.
Mm-hmm.
And Eric eventually the bell rang, which cut to a shot of Drew looking a little stressed.
It was a weird kind of tag-in. MVP was against the ropes, about to spring off of them at Eric, and then as he's coming back to launch forward, Bobby taps his back, tags himself in. Eric didn't even realize it, and Bobby jumped in and did the full Nelson on him. So I don't know. I don't think Drew was very worried, just because it's not a 2-on-1. It's just him versus Bobby.
Well, I think, because I mean, I don't know. They cut to a shot of Drew, who was, for most of the match, just kind of like goofing around, like waving, like, everything's fine, I don't care. And then Bobby full Nelson to Eric, and he was just like, he was like, oh no! Because there's not an easy way to get out of a full Nelson. Your hands are up, you're standing. Most you can do is tap out.
Mm-hmm.
If it becomes too much, which Drew has been fighting every single night so far, and still hasn't. I mean, like, last week when Bobby did it to him, when he full Nelson Drew didn't tap out. Drew took it like an adult.
Yeah.
But after Bobby essentially won by submission, Ivar comes out of nowhere in the background. Bobby's like standing at the ropes, and you just see Ivar like back here punch MVP. And I was like, okay, so we're doing this tonight. So Lashley full Nelson'd Ivar. The Street Profits ended up jumping in to kind of pull him back. And then we got The payoff. The thing I signed up for. The reason I pay $9.99 a month. We got a sweet, sweet,
Commercial
perfectly
break.
targeted Claymore kick to Mr. Lashley's face. And it shot him halfway up the ramp. And I said, thank you. That's what I was here for. That's all I wanted. It's amazing.
And then after that fight...
No. Because the whole thing Drew said during MVP's VIP lounge was exactly what my shirt says, which is talk less, play more. And Drew said, Bobby Lashley's been talking a little bit too much, and he claymored his ass back towards the gorilla, and I said, perfect. We don't need that in our lives. I'm only here for the Claymore kick. But I do think it was a good start to Backlash, essentially. I kind of like to view these kinds of fights as the pre-show almost. And Drew said to Bobby, as Bobby was like kind of stumbling backwards, like, you better know that this is going to be an all-out war. This is going to be the biggest fight that you have to experience. Like, this is it. And I don't know if it's his acting ability, I guess. I don't want to say that because Bobby Lashley only has one facial emotion. But Drew's ability to be like, I'm here and I'm passionate in his face. I don't know. It just excites me. It makes me really excited for their match. There's not a ton of matches I'm excited for when it comes to Backlash. Randy and Edge being one of the few that I'm kind of actually like hyped up for.
Ms. Braun and John Morrison.
I'm excited for that because I like the Miz Morrison and Braun. But like, normally I wouldn't care about a Drew versus Bobby Lashley fight. But Drew's fucking intensity just makes me like, oh, okay. We're here to win.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like that. I am really excited. I'm just as much as I was like happy that they didn't show me that much of Finn Balor before the NXT takeover with Damian Priest. I'm kind of also happy that they're showing me so much Drew McIntyre, Bobby Lashley feuding. Because, like, you know, I'm here. I'm ready. I know exactly the history. We're good to go, boys.
Yeah.
But of course, I had to come down from that high because then there was the Asuka versus Charlotte match, which was our last match of the night. And of course, Bayley and Sasha came out.
And then the Iconics.
They didn't come out for a little while, but man, when Bayley and Sasha came out, was I tired. I was so tired. Of course, they only came out to kind of be like ringside commentators.
Yeah. Only for a few minutes.
Yeah. And for a minute, I was like, if they join this fight, I'm going to be so mad. Little did I know it was coming in the form of Nia Jax. But
we'll get to that.
Yeah. It was a tough fight, I think. It was a tough fight.
It was also one of those fights where... And these kinds of fights annoy me because it's like so evenly matched. It's a really good fight. The person, like the face is like struggling almost on their way up to beat the this fighter that's greater than them, and then you have somebody storm on in, distract them, and they get taken down. You know, it's so overdone, it's so lame, it's so cheap, especially when that person that comes in is Nia Jax.
Yeah. First of all, I'm starting to get the vibe that like Bailey and Sasha are starting to kind of be like as sort of written so that it's like they're kind of like the Miz and Morrison, where it's like, you know, Bailey might screw Sasha over at certain points, but they're best friends still. It doesn't matter. It's like, all right.
We'll see how Backlash goes.
Yeah, and I'm hoping for a payoff with Backlash where it's like Sasha finally stands up for herself, I guess. But it was still a very interesting fight between Charlotte and Asuka.
Yeah.
Asuka got some really good hits in that even in slow-mo looked very painful.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Asuka, and I think her fighting, like, she's just insanely good at fighting. Like, match her with Charlotte Flair, all of Asuka's counters to the figure four were awesome, and she just has so much aggression built into her. And you pair that with, like, her, like, intense face makeup that runs over time. She was made for like headline events, headline fights.
Yeah, I mean, Asuka definitely got some good kicks in. There was one point where she, I think, like, kneed Charlotte in the face, and you could watch it in slow-mo, and you could just see like her whole like face going up, and I was like, oh, that's not fake. That's like real.
There was one moment, and I think this is an example of a receipt, depending on how hard everything was. But outside of the ring, Charlotte was trying to get back in. Asuka was on the apron, and kicks Charlotte in the face, sending her to the ground. And Charlotte's like holding her nose, kind of like wiggling it, making sure like it's not hurt or anything. And then she comes back up on the apron, so they're both up there. And Charlotte just kicks her right in the jaw. Like, there was full contact made. Mm-hmm. And for those who don't know, a receipt is where one fighter accidentally hurts another fighter. Like, hits them for real. In wrestling, normally, the other fighter who was hit gets to get a free hit on the other person. Free full contact hit. It's a receipt. You're cashing it in.
There were a couple things like that where I think Asuka made more contact than she either made more contact than like we expected her to, or she made as much contact as the people in charge expected her to. Mm-hmm. And frankly, that was really exciting because like we got to see like a real physical fight. But I think Charlotte's kind of starting to get into her own head a little bit because she mentioned how she's been in a main event 2 nights in a row now, which, frankly, whether you believe that the moves in wrestling are real, whether you believe that anything in WWE is real, or whether you believe that it's totally real, one way or another, the physical exertion that you have to put out for a main event match, which, I mean, Charlotte lasted about a half hour. More or less. The exertion you have to put out for fighting someone for at least 30 minutes, it's pretty intense. So I think Charlotte's kind of starting to get into her own head a little bit, where she mentioned that she's been in 2 main events 2 nights in a row. And somehow she still didn't manage to pull it together. And there was a point where she kind of knocked Asuka to the ground, and you like it's kind of see her like running through like things in her head, like the way to do a certain move or whatever. And I think that's going to be her problem now. I think that's going to be like her downfall, is that she was the queen. She was all powerful and almighty. And now all of a sudden she's losing, and she's trying to like run through like, this is what normally gets me like the win. This is what normally helps me out. And it's not working for her. Mm-hmm. And of course we saw that tonight where Asuka really gave her a run for her money. It was super technical. And of course, we can't have anything that's good in this world because Nia Jax came out.
Yep. Ruined what would have been a great ending to a great fight. Well, we should also mention the little brawl ringside.
Yeah. With the Iconics and Bayley and Sasha, which ultimately ended in Bayley and Sasha being banned from being ringside for that match because they can't be controlled by anyone, which, you know,
I mean,
when it comes to being a ringside commentator and it's not even your match, like, I just don't understand why they can't stop talking for like 5 minutes.
Yeah. Well, the Iconics did attack them.
Because the Iconics understand that, like, Bayley and Sasha don't deserve what they have right now.
Yeah.
So, essentially, that ended in... It was sort of a non-fight, I guess. They cut to commercial before we really could see a lot of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
The Iconics just kind of ambushed them, which, fine. That's perfectly fine. But then we got Nia Jax appearing. Asuka did a great job defending the ring from Nia. But because she did that, Charlotte ended up getting the upper hand and winning. Which... I don't know what Nia's trying to prove at this point. I know that they have their match at Backlash, but, like... I'm tired of seeing her.
I am too. And I mean, it's a mix of many things. We both share the same opinion, basically, on her. Her character it's not fun to watch. Like, she basically has no character. She walks into a ring, acts like she doesn't want to be there. She's just all, like, sass, but, like, not in, like, a fun, creative way. Dead eyes, and she's just like a statue, basically. And then you couple that with her history of injuring other wrestlers in the ring. Like, she injured... was it Charlotte Flair she injured?
She has a history of injuring people because of, like... She punched Becky Lynch in the face. She's obviously injured Kairi Sane. That's why the buckle bomb was banned. Mm-hmm. And she injured Ember Moon, who we saw recently. I cannot remember why.
And Kairi.
Yeah, Kairi, she's... I mean, so... At one point, I think... In 2018, Nia Jax closed fist punched Becky Lynch in the face, resulting in, I think, a broken nose, a head laceration, and a concussion. I don't know what she did to Ember Moon, but I know that she ended up injuring Kairi Sane by doing the buckle bomb on her and then kind of like splitting part of her head open. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to want to be there for a wrestler who not only is not interesting to watch, I guess. It's like if Bobby Lashley didn't have the crazy eyes, I wouldn't be that interested in it. But also the fact that she's dangerous. And going back to talking about Drew McIntyre, that's when Drew McIntyre was released from the WWE in, like, I think 2015, he was released mostly because he was dangerous in the ring and a lot of wrestlers did not want to fight him. Mm-hmm. But also at the same time because of, like, his whole divorce with, or his marriage with some Taryn Terrell, who the cops were called on them because she beat him up and while she was trying to, like, promo SummerSlam, I think. But when you ignore the fact that that's, like, not a good reason to fire someone because they're a horrible wife, or ex-wife at this point. When you ignore that fact, the fact that their whole like explanation was like, oh, he's dangerous in the ring, he like doesn't follow rules, and like to the point where even the WWE can't like stand by him. It's like, okay, so why are we still holding on to Nia Jax if she's injured people, like seriously injured people? Like a head laceration is pretty much the last kind of laceration you want to sustain.
Yeah. But I mean, it's a shame she's.
What do you say?
It's a shame she gets such a big main event fight, but I can't wait for Asuka to beat her because that's how it's gonna go.
Hey, it better. That better be how it goes. Because I can't. Again, knowing like what happened to Becky Lynch at the hands of Nia Jax, I can't in good faith be like, yeah, you know what? Maybe Nia Jax deserves the belt. Like, I don't know. And I am also kind of getting tired of WWE matches being interrupted by cheap moves that are obvious and like kind of repeated. Like, we watched, I think, 2 tag team matches tonight. We watched a couple tag team matches the other night and like last night even, where the other member of the tag team jumps in without being tagged, and it's like, I know it's the WWE. I know that rules are kind of like optional when it's the professional wrestling on like an entertainment stage. But don't tell me there's rules if we're not following any of the rules. Like the ref's like, oh, Sasha, get out of here, you silly goose, get out. You weren't tagged in. And she's like, I'm still gonna punch this person. And you're like, okay, I guess like we just have to accept it. So
yeah, I mean it's Bayley's whole thing.
Yeah. But of course Nia Jax interrupted it. Asuka ended up losing because Charlotte Flair took advantage of the interruption, and
then Nia Jax attacked her.
Right. And I think at the end of the day, the one positive that we can take out of it is that if we look at the history that is there as far as like how wrestling matches kind of go, or like feuds, I guess, is that Nia Jax has kind of taken the piss out of Asuka multiple times now. This is Asuka's time to win come Backlash. I think that's the one that we can kind of bank on.
Yeah.
But that was that for Raw. Kind of shocked that we actually got through this in an hour and a half. A lot of tonight was actually, there was quite a lot of fluff. I think that's because Raw is doing the same thing that SmackDown's experiencing right now, where it's like, we're getting ready for a big match, like a pay-per-view event. Like, we can't start any new feuds right now. We don't want to lead anyone down the wrong path, so we kind of have to fluff out segments. Because, like, for example, like the SmackDown, they didn't want to have Morrison and Miz fighting Braun, so they just had like a 4-segment long promo. And I think that was allowed tonight with like Drew coming into Bobby Lashley's fight and stuff like that, you know?
And how the Charlotte Flair Asuka fight was a half hour long.
Yeah, that was a long time. And of course, Nia had to come out. So
yeah.
I think it's sort of like when you're like, oh, I have to like leave at this very specific time, so I'm going to like get up super early and I'm going to start everything now. And then you spend like that last half hour before like you have to leave just kind of like twiddling your thumbs.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of what the WWE falls into, especially now where they don't have a lot of like people that they can kind of just pull out of thin air and like throw into the ring and like stuff like that. You know, they're kind of stuck with a set schedule of wrestlers at this point. And I think we're going to have to experience this. NXT, we're not going to see this happen, of course. I mean, NXT is going to be weird this Wednesday after TakeOver, and I'm excited for that, but I think SmackDown's going to be the same thing as last Friday, where we were just going to be like, we're just here for the ride. That's it.
Well, shall we deem our fighter, and promo of the night?
Yes.
Do we start
Let's
with
do it.
promo?
Let's start with promo.
Save fight for last.
Yeah.
Not many promos today. Not many interesting ones either.
There are a couple good promos.
My favorite might be. I mean, do you want to consider the decathlon a promo?
I would consider that a promo, yeah.
Okay, then the decathlon. That's my promo of the night.
I would say that my promo is probably gonna be the Peep Show promo. Just because you've got Edge, who is one of the most well-written, like, his story right now is so well-written, with how it all started, with, like, the betrayal at, the Rumble, all the way through to Randy Orton knocking his wife out. I feel like we've come so far, and because I was genuinely convinced that his friend, that Christian, was like really kind of being a jerk.
Mm-hmm.
I was so convinced of that like when he saw Edge get really upset, and he was like, "That's what we need to see." I was like, "Oh."
I guess I was just a little disappointed by that interview, just because Randy Orton said right before, like, he said there was going to be another bonus guest, and he ended up just coming on the Jumbotron rather than walking in. I was hoping he'd walk in, so I kind of set up my expectations. Excuse me.
I don't think that Raw wants you to think that, like, they're actually going to fight before the fight happens, though.
Yeah, but I'd still like to see a more face-to-face interaction than one guy sitting watching a pre-recorded message made out to look like it's recorded live.
I guess that's fair. I mean, I'm sticking with my opinion. I love the Edge's sad and angry face where he's just like, I'm like, it's gonna be okay, Edge. You're gonna win, I'm sure. I'm Tiny Tim in the corner.
Well, that we can agree to disagree on.
Before we go into fighter, though, I just want you to know that my fighter is absolutely the guy who somehow is always mic'd in the crowd.
There's always just some random dude. This time, mostly, some random dude who, while the crowd's cheering, he says, like, a full-on sentence from the crowd. And it sounds like he has a mic on. I said it's probably just the audio board guy in the trailer just attached the mic to himself and just gets super pumped.
That's me standing in the corner just like
Yeah.
So do you want to do fighter or fight?
Let's do a fighter and save fight for last.
Do you want to go first?
Yes. Today was a great day for seeing some great fights. As I said, I was really impressed by Sasha Banks to start off. Alistair is always impressive. Same with Murphy. Austin Theory was surprising this time. Really surprised by how well he fought. We didn't see much of Umberto, so it's hard for me to say him. And then we had the triple threat where everyone was kind of great. Nobody really stood out or was spectacular in any way. And then we come to Viking Raiders versus Bobby and MVP. Was surprised by how the Viking Raiders fought. I thought they had excellent athletic showmanship. And then Bobby is just Bobby. MVP is just MVP. And then we get to Asuka and Charlotte. Asuka was incredible. She was just outstanding today. However, I would not feel right about crowning anybody fighter of the night today unless it's Aleister Black. every single time I watch him, he makes every single fight he's in because of his perfect combination of his luchador fighting style, his martial arts, and his just absolute brutality. And the fact that he can literally land anything. He can stick the landing to a drop kick. He can stick the landing to a backflip. Literally anything. And he also sells his hits really well. When he was just on the ground after being stomped by Seth Rollins, he sells that. There's a reason. That's a reason he's one of my favorite wrestlers, just because he is absolutely incredible.
With that being said, actually, it's funny because I was going to say that my fighter of the night is actually Alistair, because there's not been a single fight so far that Alistair has been in that I've been like, yeah, neither here nor there. But every single fight, I'm just like, all right. And the fact that, first of all, Alistair has a whole walkout. He's got a whole thing. It's all planned. It happens a lot. He comes up from the ground like he's like a little demon rising from a grave.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he has abandoned that 2 nights in a row now for Rey Mysterio. And he launched himself across the announcer's table at Seth.
Mm-hmm.
There's very rarely anything that Alistair does where I'm just like sitting there like, I mean, I don't really believe it. I don't really see it. I think every fight consistently he is just impressive, and I would believe that he's actually like beating the shit out of Murphy.
And also, when you watch a lot of wrestlers, there are a lot of moments during like suplexes and everything where it seems very much like a cooperation between the two. Like one of them probably whispers to the other, "Okay, get ready, we're about to be suplexed." Alistair, he just goes for it. And I mean, none of it ever seems like unsafe. It doesn't look like he's pulling a Nia Jax and just harming every single person he comes into. No, he's just that incredible of a showman, that incredible of a stunt performer. Like, I want to see him perform stunts or be in like a movie or something. Like, he is just that good. I want him in like a martial arts movie.
He's really impressive, and I feel like we're really lucky that we get to actually watch him every night, because he always puts 110% of himself out there.
Mm-hmm.
And there's like, I just feel like there's some wrestlers who, like, you know, it might be a fight that's like really important to them, but you kind of still see them like kind of blowing the punches away and not pulling, or rather pulling back too much. Alistair, every single time, comes through. He like makes contact, he makes sound, he will react to the other person's hit in the way that you would expect him to. And it's never like, as I've said multiple times, like, it's never like an Austin Theory, like Three Stooges kind of thing. It's always, he gets knocked and he falls, and that's that.
And he commits. He commits to every hit he makes. He commits to every flip he does. Every move he makes, he commits, which is something a lot of wrestlers tend to avoid. You watch somebody just throw a simple punch, they don't commit their whole body into it. Alistair commits 110%, and that's why he is so fun to watch.
He's a very, like, not only is he good at making me believe that he's actually like beating someone up, he's also like his physique is incredible. The way that he's able to like jump off a top rope backflip into cross-legged position, where like it takes me like a hot second to get into cross-legged position.
Mm-hmm.
It's stunning. I think we can both agree that he's the fighter of the night.
Oh yeah.
And until further notice, he's probably my fighter of the night for every episode of Raw, because I'm in love with him and I love him so much. I just want him to finally beat Seth.
I mean, he's beaten him. He has. The last time he beat him.
And Seth has still beaten him afterwards.
Yeah. Anyway, fight of the night.
Fight of the night. I will let you go first on this one as well.
Ooh, okay. So I'm torn on this one. Um, we had the triple threat tag team in the beginning, which was great. I think there were a lot of great fights today. The triple threat tag team was great, but mostly, just ignore that. Mostly because of the relationship between Asuka and Charlotte Flair, which that fight only boosts the last fight, the main event fight today, just because we got to see their relationship in the beginning sort of change a little bit. Then we have the tag team, Alistair and Humberto versus Murphy and Austin Theory. That was a fantastic fight, just because watching Alistair and Humberto just do their thing and get stuff done. I I will say it is a little disappointing watching those now, just because every time that those fights happen, no matter how they end, it's always Seth Rollins comes in, brings in either Alistair or Humberto, and just says, "This is your punishment," stomps their face into the ground, or slams their eye into the stairs. Like, it always ends basically the same way. And then after that, you had the triple threat, Andrade, Angel, Kevin. That was alright. Nothing really fantastic about that. It was enjoyable, but I don't know. I didn't find anything spectacular, like I said before. Viking Raiders versus Bobby and MVP. This one was actually... I really enjoyed this fight. Because you had the... You have, like, the lead up around it. It ended great. You have the added element of Drew McIntyre on the sideline. You had the Street Profits. It wasn't just a fight. It was a show. And then you had Asuka and Charlotte, which had the horrible ending. So, I gotta say, my favorite fight was Viking Raiders versus Bobby Lashley and MVP.
I'm glad we're still on the same page because, as my t-shirt, my little Gemini earrings prove.
Hold on, you're rubbing against the mic.
Oh, because I'm too close. Oh, I wonder if it's going through this microphone.
Yeah, it is.
Sorry. That sucks. But as my little Gemini earrings prove, I'm always here for any Drew McIntyre experience, whether it's a fight or not. But that being said, I really liked the Street Profits. I'm not going to deal with that right now. I was going to try to change the output for the microphone, but I'll do that next time. I really liked this, the Viking Raiders versus MVP and Bobby Lashley fight, because we really have not gotten to see Viking Raiders fight anyone. And now that we have, it was everything I hoped for it to be, because you got to see a lot of physicality, a lot of technique from both Ivar and Eric. And it kind of sort of proved that you can get a hit or two in on Bobby Lashley, who's kind of proven himself to be like this whole like robotic, like I can fight anything I want to kind of thing. And I liked seeing him kind of get beaten down a little bit. Like, maybe he's not as intense as we thought he was. And on top of that, like with like the sort of theatrics of it all, I guess, getting to see Drew McIntyre kind of sit on the side, like fucking waving and everything, and getting to see the full circle of like Bobby Lashley and MVP trying to like just have a fight with Viking Raiders, the Street Profits coming to Viking Raiders' aid, even though they're sort of supposed to be like, I guess, against each other. To see all that, plus then Drew Claymore kicking Bobby Lashley, it was It was perfect. It was everything I wanted in a fight right there.
Yeah, and I love the ending of this fight the same way that I disliked the ending of the Seth Rollins fight. It didn't end at the pin. It ended after the story was kind of finished for the day, you know? Because after the pin, Bobby Lashley, or Ivar attacked Bobby, and then it involved the Street Profits, and then Drew came in, so it felt more of a story than a fight, which I think makes a fight a million times better when it's just more than just a little brawl.
And it wasn't really like how Sasha distracted Asuka, or Sasha. Wow, I'm really screwing it up tonight. It wasn't exactly how like Nia distracted Asuka in order for Charlotte to win. It was like Drew didn't affect the outcome of the fight, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Drew just came in after the outcome of the fight had been decided, and then decided, like, all right, you know what? He's being a little too extra on top of, I believe it was Ivar. Was it Ivar?
Yeah, Ivar.
Yeah. He was like, he's being, like, a little too intense on top of him, so I'm going to come in and do what I should do after the Street Profits came in.
Yeah.
And the Street Profits were like, hey, stop hurting our friend, I guess. And that's when Drew came in. And I was like, okay, you know what? I don't feel like you're, like, trying to interfere. I don't feel like you're trying to, like, sway a result one way or the other.
And
so
it's not like Nia Jax where she... There was really no reason for her to come in because the fight didn't really affect her anyway. And it didn't seem like... She just felt like she just wanted the spotlight for a second. Drew came in because he wanted to protect the Street Profits and the Viking Raiders. Like, he actually had a motivation for coming in. He was already there, so it made sense for him to come in.
Plus, he admitted to, like, the Viking Raiders. He was like, I'll help you guys out a little bit. Like, you know, we're brothers at the end of the day. Like, let's help each other.
Yeah, he said, like, I'm Celtic too, so we're in this together.
My silly Scottish boy. But altogether, I think it was, as Raw often proves to be, a very exciting night. I think that's the one benefit of Raw, is that it might be 3 hours, but there's 3 hours of me not knowing what is supposed to happen next.
Yeah. If only they could supplement it with more promos or something than half-hour-long fights, that would be fantastic.
And I think you'll see that after Backlash happens. I think we'll see more like stuff that's pertinent to the actual episode happen.
Yeah.
But that being said, we have coming up, NXT is Wednesday. Friday night we have SmackDown. And then on Sunday we have Backlash, which we have a new little arrangement going. Mark and I have decided that we are going to place our bets on all the matches. I'm sure our bets probably will not be totally placed until Friday. You never know what's going to be announced. But we're going to place our bets. And then, because I personally do not drink whiskey or rum or scotch or any of the dark liquors.
Anything besides White Claw.
Okay, I drink Bon and Vive, so starters. But because I don't drink anything outside of clear liquors, I guess, we are going to do, in honor of my favorite Scottish man, I found a Scottish liquor, which I've actually been meaning to buy, which is Hendrick's Gin, which I'm probably one of the only people in my age group that enjoys drinking gin. Because most people say that it tastes like a Christmas tree, and they're not wrong. but Hendrix is a Scottish brand, so we are going to do incredibly painful shots of gin. And I originally decided that we were going to do shots of gin because I meant only for Drew and Bobby's match, whether Drew wins or loses. But I think now we're just going to do that for anything that we lose as far as predictions go. So we're going to post our predictions by Friday. We'll probably announce them, I think, Friday night after SmackDown.
Yeah.
And whoever loses has to take a shot. And we will, as we go through the matches, take the shots that we deserve. And that means that I will probably not be able to actually finish out a podcast because I'll probably be roaring drunk since 3 hard seltzers typically puts me over the edge. So we'll see. But we have a lot to look forward to. I think NXT is going to be a little weird now after takeovers, since takeover has ended. I think we're going to probably see a little bit more of Finn Balor.
Karrion Kross, for sure.
We're going to see more of Karrion Kross. We're definitely going to see more of Tommaso Ciampa, which I'm so excited for. And then I think SmackDown's going to be same old, same old. I don't think we're going to see anything special or new until after this coming Sunday, when our golden week of wrestling ends, where we have wrestling every other night and we don't have to spend an entire weekend not watching. But that being said, next episode will be Wednesday, probably like 10:15ish, I would assume, to give us a little time to set up and all that after NXT ends. This time I'll probably take notes on my laptop so I can watch all the match as opposed to looking down every 5 seconds. But yeah, so a very exciting episode of Raw. And I think we have a lot to look forward to in the next coming 6 days.
That we do. If you enjoyed, don't forget to follow. Real quick, want to thank a follower who followed us today. Do Drugs Kiddo, thank you for following.
Yes, absolutely.
Follow us on Twitter. Mine is at Mark Milkdud, and Elizabeth's is at Eliza Elaine 23. So,
I am private, but I do review my follow requests, and I will not be private after Saturday because I have to tweet at someone on Sunday before Backlash happens.
Anyway, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you Wednesday.
Woo!
And
Wednesday.
if you missed the last stream, yesterday's, the VOD will be up on YouTube tomorrow morning. And so will this, about tomorrow afternoon.
Hopefully. Fingers crossed. I'll yell at Mark if he doesn't do it.
Yeah. Everyone just yell at me.
All right. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. And we look forward to seeing you again on Wednesday. There will be more uneducated WWE opinions.
Maybe a little more educated.
We might be a little more educated. You never know. It's going to be NXT,
not.
so probably not. Yeah.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Goodbye.
Farewell.